what's it like, Rona, to see the characters from your book of fiction, I assume, though it may be partially fact, come to life on the screen?
It's a very strange feeling. I've been waiting for this for about a year since they started to write the script. And, you know, the first time I saw a screening of Rough Cut, I was so terrified. It was like, you know, something you dream about, and it's almost like a daydream should never come true, because if it does come true, it's too much of a strain. You can't face it. And there it was, and there were all these people, and they look just exactly like the people in the book. The casting is marvelous.
In other words, you were very happy with the casting.
Yeah.
Well, I've heard it suggested that that Hope Lang's part was kind of drawn from either your experiences in New York, or at least your feelings about them, and that she kind of spoke your feelings about the city. Is that true?
I don't know. I think you always say that the main character is the author. Actually, in this book, with every girl, I put myself in her place when I wrote the book and kind of empathized with her. So I think there may be a little of me in all of them.
A lot of authors feel that, except Kinsey. Did you notice? I did. A very bright, you remember I yelled at you, there's Brett Halsey in the film?
Yeah.
Beautiful man, a nutty-looking face. I really comes across very handsome, good actor too. There's a lot of bees. You know, I come from the coast, and you know what the last picture he was in? Do you know? The Son of the Fly.
He made some.
He is too much, right?
That's really big. Small world. The Fly is
See
from
Brett
Playboy.
Halsey in The Best of Everything, a novel by Rona Jaffee. The story of crisp, bright young women who come out of the office buildings in their crisp, bright dresses. Brett Halsey, who is seen in The Best of Everything, was last in his Academy Award performance as The Fly.
Help me, I'm over here.
No, the thing,
You wrote it! That's right.
We published it. He didn't
Why
write
did
it.
they say such a beautiful boy and put the ugly fly's head on him? They could have had anybody.
We tried to talk about it. He wanted it. He likes to be a fly. That's all. He likes to get in the sugar. Did you what happened with the Fly? I don't want to get up to you,
The
but
Fly was originally a story in Playboy, the lead story in our June 15.
I remember.
Some very
It had a
unusual
whole white
illustration.
page with a little tiny fly in the
A
back.
little
right.
tiny fly, $4,000 color reproduction this size in old white.
it was a groovy kind of, yeah, good
It's a
idea.
crazy story.
Let's get off that and back to the book there.
Ronald, dear, I want to ask you a question which may sound a little rude, but I'm so tired of interview shows where everything is set up to be so nice between author and interviewer, and now that we're at a party, I want to ask you this sort of tough question, you know. I'm terribly interested in book publishing business, and when I see this advanced publicity, and then I see a book come out, and I see it climb up to, I think, number 6 on the bestseller list. 5.
Yeah.
And then I read the New York Times and the Herald Tribune and the Saturday Review and all these so-called egghead review media, and they all say this is 5 soap operas wrapped up into one, and you don't need to read it.
I'm glad you mentioned the Saturday Review, because that was one of the best reviews I got. It was marvelous.
Who wrote that?
There was one review which was by a woman, and she said that,
I see.
That's
no,
expectable.
she said that it was so true that every girl who reads it is going to have a shock of recognition, and it was a marvelous review, which we in fact used in the ads. And go on with your question.
Well, I just wondered how you reacted to the fact that perhaps Saturday Review, to the contrary, notwithstanding,
No, that was really
the
marvelous.
literary reviewers in general
Well, the Times,
didn't think
I don't know how
much.
you can say the Times and the Tribune are all the literary reviewers, because before the book came out, I was absolutely terrified that I would get I don't know what, and I said, I'm not going to read any reviews. I've just written this book and that's all. So for about a month, I didn't read any reviews, and then my editor said to me, look, you're crazy, the reviews are wonderful, read them. And I did, and the reviews were mostly very good. And they were, yeah, because I have a whole collection. I've got about 200 of them.
Fascinating. Do you consider the book literature?
What is your definition of literature?
Well, do you consider it a, let me rephrase it, do you consider this a hardcover periodical that will have a short life and that's the end, or something that will be being read 5 or 10 or 15 or 50 years from now?
I don't think you can tell until 5 or 10 or 50 years from now. I really don't. I don't think you ever know. I think if you set out to write the great American masterpiece, you will write the great American bore.
Well,
I've
I
never
couldn't agree
seen
more.
it fail. And I think I write the kind of book that I like to read, that's all.
Well, what
After I have to read it about
motiv-
10 times, I have to read The Galleys, and so I might as well write something I like, that's all.
What motivated you to write it?
Well, I wanted to write a book. What motivated me to write this particular book or any book?
Well, both. Let's start with, basic motivation. What makes a young, attractive girl decide suddenly that she's going to stop working for Fawcett or Gold Medal or wherever you were working?
Gold faucets.
Gold faucets. and sit down and write herself a book.
And were you working for them at the time that you wrote the book?
No, I quit.
A short time before, or?
Well, I quit because I didn't want to work anymore, and then I thought as long as I was free, I would write a book. You want me to give you a real egghead answer? You won't laugh why I really wrote this book?
I don't want an egghead answer. I want a
that's
real
right.
answer
Yeah,
because
no, I'd
I
like-
know.
Right. I mean, you can't. How can you sit here,
Well,
at
know.
a party or anywhere, and, in a dress like this and give an
Just a
egghead
sec.
answer? But I'll tell you the truth.
Let me tell you
Lad. You want to
something.
know?
You know and I know that it is extremely difficult, extremely lonely, and extremely exacting to write a book.
Yes.
Yes. And you lived in New York City, and you were a single girl, and presumably all these predatory wolves were surrounding you, but you preferred to stay home and work. Why?
Well, I'll tell you. This is the first time I've ever said anything this egghead, and I'm waiting for you to laugh, but it's true, and I'll be very brave. I think that the only way that a person, a human being, can get a sense of identity is through doing something, and something which is for somebody else. And I wrote this book, really, for girls like April in the book, who were going to go through this kind of thing in New York, and for girls who had gone through this kind of thing. And the great tragedy is that these girls just think they're the only one. They think that, I'm alone and I can't tell anybody because it's so awful and I have this problem. And it was so that if even one girl would read it and would say, I now realize that somebody knows about my problems and my life. And from doing this, I got a sense of importance, which I had to get from doing something.
Certainly.
But it wasn't to become important. I didn't do it so that I would become a famous writer of a bestseller and become important that way. Because that's another thing. And if you don't become successful for something that you're proud of, it's no good. I mean, at least for me it isn't, because I would just feel like I was going through false pretenses.
Well, if the story comes out with any tinge of the soap opera about it, it is maybe only because or partly because there are so many of these. Almost everyone all of your characters are involved in some kind of extramarital or premarital or some kind of problem relationship, and maybe it's the fact that I don't think there was a girl, at least not in the movie. There wasn't a girl in the picture that had more than 4 or 5 lines that didn't have some pretty big problems with men.
Pretty big problem.
And their problems were all men,
Well,
and
all
all
I
the men
can-
seem to be...
All I can say is I think life is one big soap opera, and to illustrate it to you, the next time you ever tell a girl you love her, stop and say, how would this look on the printed page? I guarantee you, you'll stop in the middle of the sentence and say, let's have a drink and forget it.
I surrender.
You had a very nice theme song, Best of Everything.
Yeah, you mean in the picture?
In the picture.
Yeah.
I sort of thought Soap Gets in Your Eyes might have been.
I didn't write the song, and I think it's very pretty.
I do too.
With a full
I
Johnny
think it's
Mathis
going
version
to
at
be
the
a
beginning.
very successful picture. I'm
Yes, it
certain
already
it's going
is.
to be. Yes.
It should be explained, Rona, that Speck is expressing here a little... well, we at Playboy have a very... See, we feel that some of the problems of if maybe not the world, but of America at least, are an over-feminization. And we have a somewhat different notion about the whole thing. And
Excuse me, Ella Fitzgerald just came in.
Wonderful. Excuse me just a minute. Ella is here, and we'll be back with her in just a matter of moments.